Shalom, everyone. And today we are going to study a little bit from the Zohar about Parashat Mishpatim. And we have to understand that the Zohar of Parashat Mishpatim is one of the most important documents in the whole ancient writings in Judaism that gives us the philosophy or the rules of reincarnations. Now, first of all, we are in Parashat Mishpatim. Parashat Mishpatim is, you can find it in the book of Exodus, chapter 21, verse 1. Parashat Mishpatim follows immediately after Parashat Yitro, which is Mount Sinai revelation. Now, the same way that Mount Sinai revelation is an amazing description of a revelation, the lightnings, the people seeing the voices, the shofar being blown, the clouds on the mount, all of these amazing descriptions of what happened on Mount Sinai. Parashat Mishpatim is just a list of laws, which is the base, the foundation of what is called the Hebrew law. And a big part of the Talmud is based on the verses of this parasha. All of those verses that deal with the laws of any kind of legal aspects. This is the major document, Parashat Mishpatim. Mishpatim means in Hebrew laws. Very simple. So if you go right now, if you go in Israel to study law, the name of the faculty is Mishpatim. You study Mishpatim. It's the same word exactly. And the use is still the same use as it used to be 33 centuries ago on Mount Sinai. The word is Mishpatim, laws. However, the discussion of the sages about when was this parasha given the idea that it's written exactly after Parashat Yitro, Mount Sinai revelation. So we have the ancient sages claim that that was given together on Mount Sinai, together with the two tablets. So when we say that the Israelites experienced the revelation of Mount Sinai, we have to understand that that kind of revelation is aligned with all what's written in Parashat Mishpatim, which means what's written on the two tablets is itemized, detailed, or branching into the laws of Parashat Mishpatim, which is indivisible. You cannot divide between Parashat Mishpatim and Parashat Yitro, the two tablets. So first of all, to understand the centrality of Parashat Mishpatim in any text of Hebrew law or any text of Hebrew, the basics of all kinds of the either civil court or any kind of court that is based on the biblical law. It's all coming from here. Now, the laws are very concentrated still. That's why we have huge and fat volumes of Talmudic study and then commentary on that Talmudic study, that it's all based on Parashat Mishpatim. So, of course, that the simple explanation of Parashat Mishpatim is talking about how do you manage a society that is functional, which means when you say do not steal, what does it mean? How do you monitor that idea of not stealing? Because there's so many, even today we know there's so many ways to steal that is not just stealing, not just stealing an item, stealing property, stealing ideas. How is that? How is that part of daily practical law. So, of course, it's branching into many, many layers of a commentary that, as we said before, that was given on Mount Sinai. The point is that there is the written law, what is written in what we call the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and there is the oral law that is the knowledge that came down from Mount Sinai that was part of the discussion, the study in the academy or the yeshiva for centuries and even millennia, till we're coming to the time of the destruction of the Second Temple, in which the sages of that time realized that since we are facing a dark millennium of discrimination, persecution, destruction, and so on, it will be very hard to preserve that wisdom. It had to be written down. And that's when it's starting to be written down as the Mishnah and the Zohar, and later on the Talmud. It's all like trees, that the branches are branching out from the original stem that is what given on Mount Sinai. And there are many layers in which we can study that law. Whenever you study Kabbalah, you understand there are 4 layers of understanding. There's a simplistic layer, what is called the Pshat. There is the hints of deeper understanding, which is called Remez. There is a study of the detailed understanding of how to use those laws in everyday life. And there is a secret, which is Kabbalah, which what does that mean and how does that apply also in the invisible dimension of reality. So when we start to deal with that, we'll try to cover as much as we can. And especially when we are coming to, these are the laws, which means the first verse of Parashat Mishpatim. These are the laws you are to set before them, which means this is still Mount Sinai revelation. And after the 2 tablets, the 10 mitzvot written, known by mistake as the 10 commandments, but are really the 10 utterances, 10 sayings of the Creator. Now it's a time to give more details of the same law. These are the laws you are to set before them. So, of course, as we said, the main body of laws of what is called the Hebrew law is in this parasha. And when you study in a yeshiva, most of the study will be concentrated on all of these laws, which were written down later on. The laws of, somebody steals. What does he steal? What's the punishment? How does he pay the punishment? And most important is the reason. Why do you need to pay? And for this, we need to understand the few layers. There is the layer in which you need to have a society that allows people to be creative, and their rights for property and happiness will be observed by society. And therefore, when we speak about Mount Sinai revelation, this is an amazing revolution in the perception of human rights, because here their rights are being given to every human being. It's not the rights till that time belonged to the government, which means the people who took over by force, not by democratic elections, who took over by force the control over a kingdom. It could be a city-state, it could be a kingdom that is made of few cities and stuff like this. In the ancient law, the rights belonged only to the ruling class. And when we are talking about modern society, only in the 16th, 17th, mostly the 7th and 18th century and 19th century and on, we start to see this, what's written in Parashat Mishpatim, and of course in Parashat Yitro, the two tablets, starting to manifest itself, which means the law is not just for the people. It is for everyone, and everyone has to go by the law, even if you are the king or whatever status you have in a society. The law is above you. The law is eternal. The law does not discriminate, and this is the base of a successful society till this day. The moment you see that the law is not being kept in equality, this is a dysfunctional society, and the result will be, it will become a failing state. And we see it all around the world right now in front of our eyes. If we just follow what's going on around the world, different countries, different regimes, the success of the regime, the success of the state, the success of the people of any given state is dependent on that idea. Okay, so that's the one aspect of the revolution that brought humanity to the next stage on Mount Sinai. But we have another aspect to it, because as long as this aspect is not being understood properly, we still have a problem with the first aspect about the equality in front of the law. And we're going to see some hints for that in Parashat Mishpatim. But first of all, the Zohar is teaching us the inner dimension of this law. That's still the inner dimension, because it's like the foundation of everything. Without understanding the inner dimension, it will be almost impossible to create a functional society for a long time. So we're reading verse 1 in the Zohar Parashat Mishpatim, in the Parasha Sulam, Rabbi Ashleg's commentary. פתח רבי שמעון ואמר, ואלה המשפטים אשר תשים לפניהם, תרגום, ואילן דנייד לסדר קדמהון. אילן אינוס תידורין דגלגולה, דינין דנשמתין דידנו כל חד וחד לקבל עונשי. So, translation, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai opens and says, and he says, and these are the laws you put in front of them, which means that the verse we are just talking about that verse, Exodus 21:1. Translation into Aramaic that was done along probably the era of Rabbi Shimon, ve'ilen dinayat etzader kadmehon, which means these are the laws. These are the laws, not just the legal system in the physical society, but these are the orders of reincarnation. Because Rabbi Shimon is saying, Mishpatim, it means laws, judgments, which means, again, laws, which means the laws of souls coming back, being recycled again and again to this physical world, and each one of them is being cycled into this world according to its punishment or cause and effect reality. What does that mean? And then the next verse is verse number 2 in the book of, in the same chapter 21, verse 2. כי תקנה עבד עברי, 6 שנים יעבוד ובשביעית יצא לחופשי חינם. When you buy a Hebrew servant, he is to serve for 6 years, but in the 7th year, he shall go free without paying anything. Okay, that's a verse. Says Rabbi Shimon, אמר להם רבי שמעון, חברים, כמה זמן לגלות כמה סודות נסתרים של גלגול. כי תקנה עבד עברי ששנים יעבוד, היינו כשהנשמה מתחייבת בגלגול, או מחמת עוונות, או שלא השלימה בחיי התורה ומצוות, מחייבים אותה לחזור לעולם הזה ולהתלבש בגוף. דהיינו לחזור ולהיוולד ולהשלים המוטל עליה ב-70 שנות חיים בעולם הזה. Translation, Rabbi Shimon is telling, we basically, it's anthologies of discussions, that's what the Zohar is, very similar to the Talmud, and he says, Rabbi Shimon, friends, here is the time to discover some hidden secrets of reincarnation. Which means, again, the whole Parasha of Mishpatim, when it says laws, it's not just the legal system of a functional society, but we are talking about there's a deeper dimension, that the visible dimension is basically branches of the invisible, and it's the laws of reincarnation. That a Hebrew servant will work for 6 years, which is in the original verse, the biblical verse that we just read, that is when the soul undertakes reincarnation because of sins or because of not completing Torah and mitzvot in its life. The soul is obliged to return to this world and dress herself in the body. That is to return to birth and complete her 70 years of life in this world. Okay, let me explain. So when it says that the Hebrew servant, the Hebrew slave, has to work for a certain punishment, okay? And again, we are talking about the visible aspect, what is called the branches in the Kabbalistic language. In the legal aspect, the Torah, with all the laws written in the 5 books of Moses, there's no law of jail. No law of jail. Why? The Torah does not believe in jail. You know, in North America, they call it correctional facility, which is basically laundering the word of jail, which is taking people's freedom away on the expense of the taxpayer, which means today the legal system, the jail system is a huge industry of, because just in just the United States of America, as far as I remember, there are more than 2 million people sitting in the jail system. 2 million people, that's a lot of food to provide. That's a lot of buildings, a lot of electricity, a lot of healthcare, a lot of money. This is a huge industry. So when somebody served, the word is it's taken from here, but it's again laundering the word. When somebody is in jail, in the jail system in most countries in the world, in the free world, let's say the free democratic world, okay, is served is obligation to society. That's really a lie. Which means, what did that person do to compensate everybody he hurt before he got into jail, including his victims and the legal system of the that was so busy getting him into jail, and the police system, whatever. Did you pay for that? No. And then when you've been to jail, did you pay? What did it cost the government to just to keep you in jail? Did you pay the food you ate? Did you pay for the heating system, the cooling system? Did you pay for all the medical care that you got? Just continue with that line. No, you did not pay. So according to the Torah, if you did not pay for that, you still owe that money to society. And you need to come back in the next life, and again and again and again, till you pay it back to society. Because whatever you take from others, either the society or individuals, you have to pay back. And therefore, this is the system of reincarnation, which means when you speak about a Hebrew servant, that's kind of a hidden code to the soul, that when the soul is coming back into another lifetime, the soul is becoming enslaved to the confinement of the body. Why would the soul come back again? And the answer is either to pay back for the word sins is in English, it's not enough, doesn't cover enough range. But if we go to the rest of the Parashat Mishpatim, you realize we're going to cover that in later on, hopefully, that whatever you hurt somebody, you have to pay back, okay? And if you didn't pay back in one lifetime, you'll have to come another time, till finally you did pay back. So either you hurt people, the world, society, the environment, you have to pay back, or because you did not complete the Torah and the mitzvot in its life. What does it mean, the Torah and mitzvot? The Torah and mitzvot means that it's not just we are here to get even. No, we have a commitment in the soul dimension to get fulfilled, and we'll come to it later on in a few minutes. To get fulfilled, we're not just here not to do evil. We're here to do good. We're here to fulfill the capacity of our soul. And if this capacity is not fully completed and we're still lacking something, we need to come all over again. This is very important to understand, because this philosophy is simply, when you understand it, it's more than just understanding life. It's a dimension that you need to be connected to, in order to be able to get a life that is fulfilling. As Rabbi Zakloria, the greatest Kabbalist in the 16th century, that his biggest revelation was in Tzfat, in the northern Galilee in Israel, in the 16th century. And his books about reincarnation, there are two books from his students. One is called the Sha'ar HaGilgulim, the Gates of Reincarnations, and the other one is called Sefer HaGilgul, the Book of Reincarnation. And they basically contain, these books, like the more detailed system of the laws of reincarnations. But what Rabbi Zakloria is teaching us, that without understanding that dimension that is called reincarnations, it's almost impossible for the person to fulfill his mission on earth. Okay, what is that mission, and what does it mean to be aware of that ideology of understanding, or the theology of reincarnation? So it says here in the Zohar, the soul is obliged to return to this world and dress herself in the body, which means the body is only a dress. You know, every theology around the world that is discussing reincarnation, by the way, we can find the belief system and the theology of reincarnation all over the planet. We have, if we just say, somebody once did a survey that about more than 60% of humanity do believe one way or another in reincarnation. For instance, let's go to the Far East. When we're talking about the Far East, we take India or Indochina, and we take also like like most of either Japan or even China, there is that broad understanding that the soul stays forever, which means even after you're dead, it's not over, because consciousness of the soul stays and lingers even after you leave that dress that is called the body. The body is only a dress. It's not really you. It's a dress of you. Even in countries that are very either Christian or Muslim, we can find, like, let's go to Indonesia or most of Africa or even South America, which externally it looks like these are countries under the two religions, Christianity and Islam, that are not in favor of reincarnation. They basically deny that idea. But outside, people are belonging to these religions, but they really believe in reincarnation. Like a poll that was done by the UN not long ago realized that in Africa, it's about 98% of the 98% of the population that do have this kind of religious belief in or faith in reincarnations. So, but what is the purpose of reincarnation? That is to return, I'm continuing to read the text, that is to return to birth and complete her 70 years of life in this world, because in the biblical language, saying 70 years, it's about covering the cycle of life. So, remember that life expectancy that people have today, that in many countries it's over 80, but in the ancient times, it was not that long. And if somebody lived 70 years, that was a really fulfilled life. So let's continue. So the Zohar is explaining, let's continue with the explanation. We go to verse 11 in the Zohar, Parashat Mishpatim, Perush HaSulam. Tachazai, ברנש כדת ילד יבין לנפשה מסתרה דבעירה, מסתרה דדחיו, מסתרה דלין דתקעון אופני הקודש, זכר יתיר יבין לרוחה, מסתרה דחיות הקודש, זכר יתיר יבין לנשמתה מסתרה דקורסיה, ותלת אילין אינום אמה, עבד ושפחה דברתא דמלכה. So the Zohar continues to explain the symbolic terms appearing in the Torah in Parashat Mishpatim. Okay, translation. Come and see. A man, when he's born, he's given a soul on the part of the beast, on the part of purity, and that's called nefesh. On the part of those called ofanim, that is from the world of asiyah. If he merits, he'll be given a spirit from the holy beast, ruach, that is from the world of Yetzirah. When he merits, he is given another soul from the side of the throne, that is from the world of Beriah, that is called Neshama. Okay, so when a person is born, at birth, it takes about 8 days till it settles. We get the first level that is called nefesh. The nefesh is coming from the beastly aspect, which means beast animals also have nefesh, which means when we talk about a human being has very similar needs, desires, urges like animals, which means a lot of the things that we can find, attributes that we find among most human beings, we can find similar needs and desires, even consciousness, among animals. For instance, we're not the only animals that have a society. We can find society among mammals and among birds also, which means a society with a very organized system of hierarchy respect, cooperation, building projects together. We can find it in the animal kingdom, we can find it in the human kingdom, which means to be a member of a pack, a member of a clan. This is, you can find that among primates, which means apes, animals that from the ape family. We can find them among birds. We can find them among wolves, many, many, many places. Okay, so being part of a clan, a society, having a loyalty to your society, cooperating in hunting, in building, in creating an environment that is hospitable, whatever, you can find it also among many, many different species in the animal world. So that's not unique for humans. Also, establishing a family, having a commitment between male and female as a couple to establish a family, to produce and to take care of the offsprings. You can find that also in the animal kingdom, among mammals, among other species like birds and even fish. Okay, so this is also not special to human beings. Building tools, once it was accepted only human beings can build tools, we know that it's not only human beings. Okay, so that's called that part of the consciousness that is doing everything possible for the survival of the individual, and also to secure the survival of the offsprings. We can find that in everywhere in the animal kingdom, the same way as among human beings. And that's why during the 70s, especially 70s and 80s, that idea that the human being is basically a naked ape, because he can find all of these attributes among other species that we can find in humans, we're just a more sophisticated animal. However, here comes a difference. If a human being who's born with that level that is called nefesh, which means you have the urge and the need, the desires to secure yourself and to secure your offsprings, and even many times to create a society in order to do that. This is nefesh. However, when you start in your journey to secure your life and your offspring, to expand knowledge, experience, and animals do it also. Animals also teach the young ones all kinds of skills. You can find it among many, many animals. Okay, but when you extend that amount of study and skills, and you are capable of reaching a level of abstract knowledge and information, and your desires to grow are bigger, you finally, I'm just making it really short, you start to realize there are rules to the universe. And then, again, I'm making it really short, you start to realize there is something about altruism, that you can find altruism also in the animal world, a lot of altruism. But when you start to have an ideology of altruism, that fulfills you as a mission, and you start basically to get more and more joy out of it, even though you don't have any physical reward for that. The more you develop yourself doing that, you can, what the Zohar is saying, you have the merit to receive another level that is called Ruach. So that's why it says over here, when we are starting the journey, every human being has nefesh. And it's also called Ofanim. for when we're talking about, it's the same level of certain angelic entities that are called Ophanim in Olam Asiya, the world of Asiya, which is the dimension of the physical world. However, the moment the person has developed altruism that is connecting to something that is above just a physical instinct, as a philosophy, as a theology, as a belief system that stops you from stealing from others or killing others because of an ideology that is higher than just survival. And we're talking about biblical ideas, because before that, all the ideas the society had one purpose. It was the same frequency of a clan of wolves or ducks, keeping the order, having and especially giving a priority to the top, the higher class, to multiply, have grip over the assets of the group. That was exactly the form that it was, even when we're talking about Egypt or Mesopotamia till Mount Sinai. Here we're having another framework, and that framework spoke about, now you do not steal, you don't kill just because it is an abstract idea of self-improvement in order to be closer to the light of God, which is totally above the physical needs. And that's where it says, if he merits, he'll be given a spirit from the holy beast, which that level is called Ruach. By the way, there's no translation to these names into English because, for instance, the word nefesh, there's no, once I saw a trial to call it crude spirit. Ruach is a spirit. It sounds like, but basically Ruach is that level in which you can, a person is really committed for spirituality, for really growing beyond the immediate needs, which means when I can, I steal, when I have to, I kill. You know, it's all about survival. The survival of the fittest, which means you're part of the evolution of the animal kingdom. Most humans, by the way, are still under that force, which means a silly nefesh. That is from the world of Yetzirah. Ruach belongs to Olam Yetzirah. Olam Yetzirah is a dimension above our dimension, which is called Olam Asiyah. When he merits, if the person is really committed in a level of Ruach, and he faces a lot of darkness to turn into light, a lot of bitterness to turn into sweet, a lot of obstacles to turn into victories, and the person is getting more intense about it, he will be given another soul from the side of the throne that is from the world of Beriah. Olam Beriah is called also the throne, Kursaya. And that level is called Neshama. So we have three levels. Nefesh, which all human beings have, and that's just to maintain or to secure the species. And animals have that also. Ruach is when a person already has a spiritual awareness, which means a commitment to transform and a commitment to spiritual, like to the laws of the Bible, the Torah, that are not in line with the laws of evolution. Which means in the world of evolution, we have the survival of the fittest. So people who go by this law, that's nefesh. And you still have a lot of nations in our world in which it's always a fight of the survival of the fittest. Okay? Ruach means that you are committed to equality. However, it is not for the purpose of having a nice, comfortable society, because if that is the reason, I don't want to expand about it, that's not going according to the Kabbalists. If just the reason, and we can talk about many idealism like socialism, communism, you just name it, that are about equality in everything, okay? That is, he cannot just do that out of human mind only, because that will simply be destructive, as we can see along history. The last century was educative enough. If you really understand history, okay? Here we're talking about committing to these ideas in the biblical sense, because that's a way to connect to a higher state of awareness, to a higher level of enlightenment, to spiritual light. That is such a rewarding state of mind, I'm talking about ruach, that because it's so rewarding, you can create a real equal society on ruach, which means Rabbi Ashlag explains, only people who reach the level of ruach, you can really have a pure communism in a society like this. Because in a society like this, you don't have to have a bureaucracy or monitoring or regulation in order to monitor people's production. You don't have to whip them. You don't have to chase after them to be productive. The problem with communist governments is that if everybody's equal, everybody gets the same, why should people get bothered even trying to excel? And that's what happens. They don't try to excel, and they always stay behind. You know, in the big race between the Soviet bloc and the Western bloc won. Why? Because the people in the Western bloc, they felt free to excel. They were rewarded for that. And they were created a more powerful society. And the result, the Soviet bloc simply went bankrupt and failed. Okay? So, but that's what you cannot say, that the capitalist Western world was really free and is really just and equal. Now, in order to achieve that, which communism is a great idea about equality, still you need to have the level of ruach in which you're not trying to excel to serve society, that this didn't work. We saw it. You're trying to excel because that's a way, by serving society, you're serving your purpose. And that's why reincarnation is so important. You're serving your purpose to get closer to divinity. And a higher level after ruach, that's the neshama of olam beriah. So why is that so important? Because when we are talking about the creation, we go to the main pillar of theology of monotheism. There's one idea behind it. When you're talking about monotheism, the monotheism of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we are talking about a creator that is infinite, light, energy, positivity, and only good. And because of that, the thought behind the creation is to give pleasure or bliss to its creatures. You can find it in the Tanakh. You can find it in the Talmud. Great sages like Rabbi Saadia Gaon. We're talking about the 9th century. We're talking about Rabbi Isaac Luria, the Arizal, 16th century. Talking about the Ramchal, 18th century. They were clearly emphasizing this as the main pillar of monotheism. Okay, if the main pillar of monotheism is that the creation happened because there is a force, an infinite force of giving and goodness, that by its giving, it created us as entities that are about one thing, receiving. Okay? What was really the creation about? Because if we talk about all the good we have in the creation, beauty, and whatever pleasure and happiness and positivity you have in the creation, this is not a creation because that's something out of something. That was the creator, is the creator, is an extension of the creator. There's nothing new over here. There's nothing that was created. It's just an extension of the original force of the creator. So what is the creation about? It's about the lack. And what is a human soul? It's all about a lack, a need, a desire. Okay? So we were created, which is, I'm talking about human souls, we were created as the vessels to receive all the good the Creator had to share. Now, what's the problem over here? So we learn, since we have the hint in Genesis chapter 1, that when the Creator created Adam, which is basically that all-inclusive body of all existing souls, and that's Adam. Male, female, Adam and Eve were created. In the image of God, he created him. In male and female, he created them. So Adam was created already in the beginning in the image of God and male and female, all in one. Now, that is the creation. But the moment you say it's the image of God, there are many ways you can relate to it, but one that is most important is in the image of God, which means when the Creator shared his great gifts with us by creating us as the image. We are just the image of what he shared, because whatever he shared, we have the need to receive. But because his giving is infinite, we could not receive that aspect of being a creator. And therefore, it was imprinted in us, all souls, that image, which means the need, not just for happiness, bliss, fulfillment, and pleasure, but a need to be a creator, which means since then, a healthy human being can't stand dependency, can't stand living off somebody else's favors, can't stand selfishness, which means I never met happy, selfish human beings. I never met happy, dependent human beings. So the need to create our own happiness is part of the creation. It's part of our own nature, and you cannot disregard, or disconnect from that aspect of our personality. This is so deep, and it's the same way we are structured, built to receive God's light. We also structured to be the creators of that process. This is the reason why we live in a world of challenges, misunderstanding, bitterness, all of that, what you call darkness. Why do bad things happen to good people? The point is, we are not here just to receive God's bliss, which is very important, but we're here also to be creators in that process. And the whole learning of Kabbalah is about how do you do that? Now, what does that lead us to? A very important idea. In the book of Samuel 2, chapter 14, it says very clearly, he should think of some way to keep the one he banished from being forever an outcast. Which means, the moment a human soul was created in the beginning, just in the beginning, when it says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, that means the creation of all souls of humanity. We were created to receive the gifts of the Creator. And that means by the Kabbalists, if we are really monotheists and we really connect our belief system of faith into an infinite giver, infinite force of giving, the Creator, the one Creator, His giving is infinite, and therefore you cannot deny that. You can delay the receiving, and that's why we have a reality that is under time. In our reality, it's a matter of time, which means you're miserable. Then the next day you're happy. Then you're miserable and so on, which means you have yesterday, today, and tomorrow. But you have to remember, time is part of the creation, and the Creator, because He's infinite, He's above time because time is a limitation. So being infinite, He's above time. So for His point of view, we're already happy, which means we came to this world empty. We go through the journey in the dimension of time, and along this journey, we learn again and again how to get fulfilled. For the Creator, it doesn't mean anything, which means for the Creator, what's important is the final product. And the final product means that every soul is going to be finally completed and reach total fulfillment. Not going through that, according to the Jewish theology, is like cheating the Creator. Can you cheat the Creator? Can you create any kind of reality that is outside the one Creator of monotheism? There's nothing but His presence? Of course not. And therefore, if He created you and me with a purpose to be fulfilled, we will be fulfilled. Not now, tomorrow. Not tomorrow, the day after. What happens to somebody who had a terrible life, full of sins and blemish and darkness? So, and you see, the person dies with total bitterness and anger and frustration. He's still a vessel for the light of the Creator. And because he did not die fulfilled, he'll have to come, as the Zohar says, again and again. One hand to correct, fix, pay for all its mistakes. On the other hand, to achieve all the gifts and the rewards that the Creator created that individual for. So why are we coming back again and again? It's very simple. If the end is well, all is well. And if it's not well, it's not the end. There will be another chapter and another chapter, another chapter. We're going to meet more and more obstacles, and all of them reflect one thing: the journey towards perfection. Then each one of us is committed to, we want it or not. These are the laws of reincarnation, which means you have to come again and again and again to correct the damage, to build the desire, and finally to receive all what is intended for you, which means when you have any religion that teaches that certain amount of people will be outcast forever, or we call it rot in hell forever, this is against monotheism. Because what the sages are saying, basically, it's not that that person is a failure. It's a failure of the Creator who created him. Which means if the Creator is infinite and he could not bring his creatures back to the infinite, that's his failure. And that's impossible. Therefore, you cannot cheat the Creator, which means you cannot create so much damage and suffering and misery so you can stay banished away from the Creator forever. This is impossible. And therefore it means that you have to come again and again and again. So whoever is preaching for YOLO, which means you live only once, this is a lie. Big, fat, unbelievable lie. Why? If you really believe in monotheism, you cannot preach for something like this. You cannot speak about being banished forever in hell. You cannot just say that the whole creation of billions and billions of souls was created for only few people to be successful and all the rest to be failure. This is unacceptable, of course, because in that meaning, what you say, when you have a product coming out from the production line and the product is blemished, okay, whose fault is it? You blame the product, or you blame the producer. Of course you blame the producer. There's no way that the producer of all what life is about, the Creator himself, has any blemish. And therefore, all his creatures are perfect. The question is, because we are under the limitation of the dimension of time, therefore, the same way the Kabbalists are saying, the same way the moment a fruit is being created on the tree, is it perfect? No, it has to go through a long process. During that process, the fruit is hard, bitter. It's not fit for human consumption. Does that mean there's something wrong with the fruit? No, it's something wrong with the perception of the person looking at it, saying like, that's a failure. Look at this fruit. It's hard. It's bitter. The farmer will look at you with pity, and pity is say, you just need the patience because it's not the spring yet. Only in the spring or in the summer, the fruit will be ripe and you can eat it. You need some patience. The same way the Kabbalists look at people. You see that person is full of bitterness, negativity. He's simply like that fruit that on the tree is not ripe yet. Emphasizing the word yet. So, understanding reincarnation, having the state of mind of reincarnation, the concept of reincarnation, is a necessity. We need to have that in mind in order to be able to deal with all the difficulties in life, all the what we see around as injustice. And again, why do bad things happen to good people? They simply didn't finish the correction. They're still on the journey. They still need to face all kinds of challenges till they become really pure. So that's why, by the way, when we spoke about this nefesh and ruach and neshama, the different levels, so the Zohar is adding, when somebody is reaching the completion of the soul, which is when you reach above neshama, then you reach the freedom that it says in the Torah, in Parashat Mishpatim, when we're talking about the Zohar calls it the princess, the daughter of the king. When you reach that level, which is the level of Chaya and Yechidah, the two more levels about Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, then you are in a state of mind that is called freedom. Freedom, which means you can't be defeated anymore by fear, by interest, by selfishness. All of those emotions that basically cut us off away from the endless Creator. The moment we reach that awareness of wholenessness, oneness with the Creator, we are really free. What does it mean? A person like this won't be always under the as it says in Genesis about the sword of flame that is turning around, which means once it's good, one is bad. One is good, one is bad. Oh, now I won, now I lost. They're good, they're evil. It's going to be good, it's not going to be good. You're free of that. because you are already in a level of awareness that these issues do not bother you anymore. You see the big whole picture. Where do we get reincarnation from? In the Torah itself. The word reincarnation does not appear in the Torah. But if you read carefully what we just read yesterday, which means Parashat Yitro, Mount Sinai Revelation, the 2 tablets, what is known by mistake the 10 commandments, which is really the 10 sayings. It says, Exodus 20, verse 5, punishing the children for the sins of the parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who hate me. And of course, the Zohar is asking, how could you see this? It doesn't sound nice. Why should I pay for something my great-grandfather did and I never met him? And here goes Deuteronomy 24:16. Fathers are not to be executed for the children, nor are the children to be executed for the fathers. Every person will be executed for his own sin, which means you don't have to pay for your ancestors' sins. So it's like there is a contradiction. Okay? And you read it also in Ezekiel 18:2. What do you people mean by quoting this proverb about the land of Israel? The parents eat sour grapes, and the children's teeth are set on edge. Or the other one, also from Ezekiel, same place. For everyone belongs to me, the parent as well as the child. Both alike belong to me. The one who sins is the one who will die. Which means you are the only one who pay for your own sins. So what are we talking about? So when we're saying on Mount Sinai Revelation, when it says that God visits the sins of the father to the sons, the only way to explain it, as the Zohar says, is only by understanding that we are talking about one soul comes again and again and again, the generation of the father, the generation of the son, generation of the grandchild, of the 4th generation, to pay till you really correct it properly. And that goes on in Exodus 21, 33, 34. If anyone uncovers, as we see here in this parasha, if anyone uncovers a pit or digs one and fails to cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the one who opened the pit must pay the owner for the loss. Which is, here we see a very simple rule. What does it mean? If somebody, let's translate it to our language, if anyone uncovers a pit or digs one, which means the moment you create something that has a collateral damage to the environment, that could be pollution. Oh, there are many, many pages in the Talmud about pollution and how pollution can, which means if you have a factory or you have it at home, you're creating noise or any kind of pollution of smell or other kinds of pollution, and that affects the neighborhood, you have to pay for it because the damage you inflict on others, you have to pay for it. But it says you must pay. What do you mean must pay? What if I ran away? What if I refuse to pay? You will pay this lifetime or another. Or another example, for instance, if there's a serious injury, you have to take life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise. Okay, Exodus 21, 23, verses 23 till 25. But you cannot cut off, according to the biblical law, you cannot cut somebody's foot off unless it's to save his life. You're not even allowed to do it for a beast, for an animal. This is not allowed even for Noahites. That is part of the Noahites law, which means that the laws for humanity, that you cannot cut or eat an animal while it's still alive. How can you do it for a human being? And the answer is, if you go to the Talmud, this is paying money, which means you have to pay to compensate any damage you inflicted on others. But if you don't compensate, you'll have to come next life and you will have to pay for it. So if you lose a tooth or an eye or a foot, that could be a result of a damage you inflicted on somebody else. So the purpose of earthly court is to prevent that from happening to you, which means the purpose of the biblical court is not to take a revenge from the criminal, to scare other criminals in the future. No, here came somebody, the word mishpat, mishpatim. Mishpat in Hebrew has a very deep meaning. It doesn't mean judgment. Judgment is din. Mishpat means balance. You know, what's the symbol of court? The scales. It is not about revenge, it's about balancing. Balancing somebody's karma, somebody's soul. The purpose of the judge is, how do we rehabilitate the criminal? Because he's still part of us. No matter what happens, he's still staying with us. Let's say we don't execute him. And to execute somebody, according to the biblical laws, was almost impossible. Almost, when biblical law was really imposed in the Israelite or the Jewish society, it is mentioned that it was like so rare to execute somebody, it was almost unheard of. And if it happened to be that the Supreme Court, what was called then the Sanhedrin, of 71 people, issued a death sentence, they all had to resign, and they were called the killing court. It was so rare. How can you run a society like this? So here comes the values of the Bible saying, your job as a judge is not to take revenge and inflict more judgment on society. Your job is to balance, which means if you get that criminal to see that he simply went off course, and now your job is get him off course. How? If he compensates the victim enough, and he gets through a system of whatever he's going through in order to repent, then you got him back on track. You saved him and you saved the society. Okay, that's your job as a judge. And that needs a lot of humiliation. That's why if you go to Tractate Sanhedrin, which speaks about the laws of establishing court, it says you must, if you're a judge and you don't follow love others as you love yourself, you must resign. Or you cannot judge in that case, at least. Okay, I think we covered a lot. So when we understand those ideas, and it's only just an introduction when we understand that all those laws in Parashat Mishpatim are all about how to balance somebody's soul. So when we come to the question, why are people stuck in terms of their professional development? And the answer is very simple. Without enlightenment, without spiritual development, without taking responsibility for one's emotions and one's perception of reality, that's basically the idea of reincarnation. Whatever is happening to me, let's say I don't remember if I did so much evil to others, why that comes to me? And the answer, it's not your first time over here. You came over here as a chapter in a long, long journey, in a big, fat book that your soul is writing. And this is just chapter, who knows, 86, 105. So when you have that perception, finally it makes you take responsibility for what you feel, what you do, what you say, what you encounter with. then if you don't take that stage, that perception, there will never be progress, because we'll be always stuck with the same level of not understanding what you're doing here. Who is against whom, and what's the purpose? And that's what's important. Of course, we cannot teach that all in one class. However, Sunday, February 25th, 2024, we are starting the Reincarnation course and the personal correction. And that will be on Zoom, 13 sessions. And because of the whole world is going right now into so much terrible mess of misunderstanding and confusion, it's only a cost of donation. You have no excuse to take this course. In order to register, simply send a message to the number in front of you, just by WhatsApp, and we'll get you into the course, and we can really learn step by step how to achieve that kind of awareness, how to apply that awareness in most of the aspects of our lives, either health, relationships, sustenance, career, many other aspects. How do we deal with trauma, with fear, and basically how to realize that the consciousness of past lives, reincarnation, is everywhere, in every moment in our lives. When we are aware of it, we're on the right path for success and completing our souls faster and being more efficient in achieving our life goals. Thank you so much.